Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, my appointment was cancelled for being 5 minutes late? I guess I have to reschedule. Shouldn't use got? Okay, I won't. A tale from primary school. Run out of library renewals? No problem. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My appointment was cancelled for being 5 minutes late? I guess I have to reschedule. This happened about 4 years ago, when I got a summer job at my university. The job was working for professors that I had worked with before, and they asked me last minute to teach a summer workshop to 9th and 10th graders. So with less than 2 weeks before the camp starts, I have a bunch of paperwork to do first, including clearances that say I can work with kids. One of these is an official FBI check for which they need my fingerprints. Well, I needed to do the physical fingerprinting right away in order to get the result in time. Luckily, I was able to book a fingerprinting appointment for that Friday, booked 24 hours in advance, as required, which would be just barely enough time to get the result. That Friday I catch the subway to campus and it's atrociously slow. I'll admit I should have planned for this, the subway here is always behind. Anyway, I end up slightly late getting to campus, so I literally run to the police station and enter the front room at exactly 5 minutes after my appointment time. I know this because, as I stepped through the door, I felt my phone buzz with what turned out to be a "your appointment has been cancelled" email. I speak to the security/cop behind bulletproof glass inside and I learn the appointment was cancelled after he checks my confirmation number. Apparently, that they are automatically cancelled if you're not checked in within 5 minutes. Obviously, this is outrageous, but I'm usually a patient guy. I ask if I can book a new appointment. That's no good since it would have to be Monday or later. So I grab a coffee from across the street and return to sit inside the police station to try and solve this with some Googling while I slip into a more and more frantic state of frustration. I can't find anywhere in the city that can fingerprint me before Monday. But here's what really pushed me over the edge. While I'm sitting there, at this point 30 minutes past my appointment time, someone else comes in for fingerprints. She shows up 5 minutes early. They take her in immediately, and she's out before her appointment was even scheduled to begin. The entire thing took her about 2 minutes. I point out to the cop behind the glass, as politely as I can, that clearly someone could see me right now because her appointment is already over. Why can't I have the current slot? But the cop insists that since my appointment was cancelled, my registration info was no longer in the system and I can't be seen today. That's when the idea comes to me and I confirm with him that showing up early is not a problem, because they would have my appointment and registration info in the system. You see where I'm going with this? So I quietly sit back down and take out my phone. About 10 minutes later, I calmly approach him again and say, "Hello, I have a new appointment to be fingerprinted. I'm about 72 hours early." I have never seen such an exasperated sigh in my life. But he checked my new confirmation number and everything was in order. Within 10 minutes, I was walking back out after getting fingerprinted. At least he didn't try to fight with you about it. I wouldn't have considered that. Oh, definitely, I wasn't really sure it would work. I think he was mostly just sick of me at that point though. Yeah, my first thought was we can't allow you in more than 24 hours before your appointment. Most secure locations I have come across follow a policy like that. This one sounds like both of you are maliciously complying with regulations from the faceless bureaucracy, like I suspect the system somehow just wouldn't take your prints if you didn't have a, not cancelled, appointment, but once there was a way to do it the officer went along. True. It was actually on his computer, but I'm sure it wasn't his own personal rule. So either it was actually impossible to register me day of, or he was really trying to enforce a ridiculous policy. I don't feel like it's a good fit for this sub, because neither of them were malicious. They both just complied, and OP found a loophole. Nothing malicious about that. What I'm curious about is if that guy ever told any other customers about that trick in the future. I'm sorry, your appointment was automatically cancelled. Unfortunately, since your appointment was cancelled, you're no longer in the system and I cannot process you. However, if you book an appointment for any future time, you'll be back in the system. You can even come early to that appointment. Very early. Days early. I was waiting for some sort of I stole a pen, so they had to book me and take my prints, but this is much better. That guy was just sick of people turning up 15 minutes late and delaying everyone, but if it only takes 2 minutes, then it doesn't seem like being a few minutes late would mess with the schedule. Crazy but amazing story. Love it. Shouldn't use got? Okay, I won't. A tale from primary school. My dad reminded me of this early example of my occasional malicious compliance based on extreme literalism. The setting: I was in primary school, about 8 years old, the class focusing on creative writing. In my first story, I used the word got in a sentence along the lines of "the bear got to London*." The feedback my teacher gave me was that I should use arrived at rather than got, for reasons I can no longer recall if I ever did, but presumably because it sounded better or at least increased the word count. My next assignment was entitled "How the Cherry Tree Arrived at Its Blossom." That particular teacher never quite dared to criticize my word choice after that. The actual sentence has been lost in the mists of times, probably for the best as far as the literary record goes. Not gonna lie. You arrived at me in the first half. Taking directions literally, in Kindy or Year 1, I asked the teacher why do some sentences have a line, / in them. She said, "It's another way of doing a space." So I wrote an entire story using only slashes instead of spaces. Nowadays, I'd like to think it's a possible early indicator of neurodiversity. Maybe. But back then the teacher told my parents I was a smartass and did it deliberately to make her look bad. Run out of library renewals? No problem. This isn't as major as some of the other stories that I hear, but this just happened in the past couple days, and it should be fine here. As the title suggests, I was reading a library book, and I had already burned through all the renewals before I could finish reading it. The reason I didn't finish the book was because I got caught up in schoolwork. When you check out a library book at a public library in my city, it's checked out for 4 weeks, with 2 renewals on top of it. There's some nuances to that if someone requests a book, but those aren't applicable in this case. Also worth mentioning is that there's more than one library location. There's the main location downtown, along with other smaller locations spread throughout the city. Anyways, I'm getting ready to return my books to the library 2 days ago, including the one I was reading, when a light bulb went off in my head. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. The public library also has an online catalog. You can access what books you have checked out, browse what books look interesting to you, renew books, etc. The online feature in question is the request option. Basically, if there's a book you want in the system and it's not available at your library location, or all copies of that book are checked out, you can request the book online. The library then delivers the book to whatever library you request, at no extra charge, unless you exceed the hold period, which is usually a couple days. I decided to put in a request for the book before returning it. The book was delivered to my library branch today. I was then able to check it out again with 2 more renewals. It's not the most dramatic thing that happens on this sub, but I hope this was entertaining to read. Life hack. If the book wasn't in high demand, you probably could have asked the librarian to check it out for you again and saved yourself the extra trip. Absolutely. We do this all the time. As long as there are other copies circulating and no one waiting for the book, we're happy to extend the due date. I work at a public library. If you burn through your renewals and it's not been reserved by anyone else, we literally scan it as returned and then loan it out to you again. We actively encourage people to do this. The only reason for the renewal limit is so the book gets handled at least once, as being out of the building for over 9 weeks is a significant loss risk. So you returned a book and checked it out again later? That's just how libraries work, man. Like, the entire system is designed to allow and encourage you to do that. They want you to check out the books, it's why they are there. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.